Welcome to the Bag Maker's Workroom. I am Chris with Simply Classic, and today is Thursday, January 15th, 2026. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us live tonight. It's cold in Georgia tonight. It's supposed to be 20 degrees. And I know a lot of you are thinking 20, that's a heat wave, but not in Georgia. So we're a little chilly here. They're even predicting a couple of snow flurries this weekend. So we'll see what happens. We go live every Thursday at 7 p.m. If you can't join the live, please watch the recording anytime on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified whenever I post a new video or when we go live. So I see Juanita is here from cold, snowy Ohio, which I'll be there in a couple weeks. Sue Roberts is watching from Annapolis, Maryland. Thank you for joining us, Sue. And then Susie Soes is from Nashville. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate all of you taking your time out to kind of stop in. And even if you can't be here the whole time, we appreciate you being here some. So our theme today is man bags, and here's what we have planned. We're going to start by going over what's new in the Simply Classic Scoop. Then I'll show you our pattern of the week, the sorella and some perfect pairings. We'll look at some designer bag inspiration. Then we're going to learn about an American designer, so I don't have to pronounce any foreign words. Tom Ford, that's going to be good. We're going to feature our customers' bags in Artistry Avenue. And finally, we're going to give away some patterns and do a Q&A at the end. So before we get started, please take a second to click the thumbs up button below. It really does make a difference, and we appreciate the support. So now it's time for the Simply Classic Scoop, and this is where I tell you what's new here at Simply Classic. So first, we're going to take a look at our upcoming episode topic. This week, of course, is all about man bags. Next week, we're going to be hacking the sorella pattern to make it more masculine. On January 29th, we have a new pattern coming out, and we'll also be talking about the history of Balmain bags. That brings us to February. On the 5th, we'll learn how to remix pattern pieces to get a different look. On the 12th, we'll look at designer bag trends for the spring and summer, which we always love these trend runway episodes. Then on the 19th, we'll hack the Simply Classic clutch pattern based on one of those trends. And finally, the last week of February is all about faux, fur, and hair-on-hide bags. So I hope you'll join us each Thursday. If you have any questions or topic ideas, we'd love to hear them. You can email share@simplyclassic.net with your suggestions. So we also want to remind you that, I kind of mentioned this last week, and we've decided to move forward with it. So we're going to do a live sew along on Zoom, and it's going to be on Tuesday, January 27th. This is going to be, we're going to do this hack pattern, okay? So we're going to take the Gemella wallet and we're going to hack it to this Dior inspired wallet. Now, because it's on Zoom, it's going to be very interactive. You can choose to turn your camera on or off. We can all talk, which I like. Instead of just reading comments, we'll be able to actually chit chat and spend the day sewing together, or the afternoon. It starts at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So the cost of the sew along is $39.99. And when you sign up, you're going to receive a Gemella pattern, some additional pattern pieces for this hack. You're going to get a list of what you need to prepare before the sew along, and then a link to join the Zoom meeting. Now, we've had a few people reach out and ask, say, hey, I already bought the Gemella. Can I get a different pattern? And really the cost of the sew along is to cover, the kind of behind scenes expenses of, getting my team helping me get set up, the cost of the Zoom itself. You're actually going to be able to get the recording of the Zoom afterwards. It's just a lot of the manual labor and stuff that goes into it. The pattern is really complimentary. So if you've purchased the Gemella, we do appreciate it very much. But with these sew-alongs, the patterns are going to be complimentary, and it's just going to be for the cost of everything else we have to cover. So we hope you understand, and we do appreciate your support, and would love to see you on that Zoom. Now, I'm going to show you real quick what the wallet hack is, what we're going to be doing. We're going to switch to the overhead. And this is the wallet. We talked a little bit about it last week. It is the Gemella wallet. It's just configured a little bit differently, and it's just credit card slots. There's no zipper pockets. There's no coin. There's no slip anything. It's just basically a credit card wallet for a bunch of credit cards. The back, of course, is plain, but you, of course, can choose whatever materials you'd like. Doesn't take a lot, okay? So you can really go to your scrap pile and see what you have. And you can see I used 3 different here. I used the Merlot suede. I used our new diagonal D in the burgundy and cream. And then on the inside, I used the solid cream. So I hope you can join me for that. It's really a lot of fun. We're going to try to do these Zooms once a month. And I actually have already talked to some other I'll just say some other people in our world that you all know and love. And I think we're going to have a few of the sew-alongs that we do together. We're going to partner with some other people. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that we did have another Nina class for sale. We still do. We have 2 spots left, and they're both in the eggplant leather, which surprises me. You guys love purple, but for some reason, this purple is still available. So I guess that's great if you love purple. The pale yellow is like sold out forever. We don't have any more pale yellow at all. So if you were holding out for the pale yellow, we don't have it. We may try to do a different color yellow in the future. But if you really want to take the class and you kind of like purple, you might want to go ahead and sign up, because we will not be offering the pale yellow again. We had a very limited amount of that leather, and we were surprised at how many of you liked it. It's been a very, very popular color. Burgundy is gorgeous as well. And then, of course, the blue-gray is beautiful. It's really a very subtle, beautiful color. So anyway, we are going to, this is going to be March 13th through the 23rd. We do suggest that some experience working with leather in bag making, is required here. This can't be your first bag. It probably is going to be, you'll be frustrated probably if it is. The classes are very detailed, but I just think there's some basic things that will help you. And a lot of you are bag makers, so it really shouldn't be a problem if you want to go ahead and sign up. Cost is $350, and that does include 6 pre-recorded video lessons, 3 live Zoom check-ins, lifetime access to your student portal, and then, of course, your class kit. Class kit includes almost everything that you need to create this bag. So that means leather lining, hardware, stiffeners, interfacing. It does not include glue. It does not include the punches, like the end punches and oblong punch you're going to need, things like that. But all of that is listed. If you go below and click on the registration link, there's some really helpful resources on that page that list all those things, including a class calendar, all the supplies that you're going to need for the class. Most materials, like I said, are included in the kit, but you are going to need to get a few things. All right, next we want to talk about the Year of Swag calendar. So we're participating in the 2026 Year of Swag calendar from Saya Swag. And for those of you who don't know, Saya Swag is run by Kesia Myers. She's a bag maker who also sells sewing supplies. And her team put together these calendars full of discounts for bag makers. It includes coupons from over 60 vendors, okay, like Bagstock Designs, Spencer Ogg, Shambhala Bags, and of course, Simply Classic. There are different discounts for every week of the year, okay? So as you go through these calendars, you're going to see that, of course, each month there's a picture of Susan and Kesia in the top here. And they're really fun pictures. And then at the bottom, she shows the calendar. And then at the bottom here are the coupons that you need. Each month is different. So we have 2 coupons included this year for 20% off 1 week in February and another for 20% off for a week in October. So Size Swag generously gifted us a calendar to give away to our audience. So we're going to do that right now. So one person watching live will win this Year of Size Swag calendar. It's only open to U.S. residents because we have to ship you the calendar. But international folks, stick around because we do have more giveaways towards the end of the episode. So if you're in the U.S. and you want to enter this giveaway to get one of these or to get this calendar, here's how you enter. Just enter the word sewing in the chat and we'll have the computer randomly select a winner in just a minute. Please only enter one time. And again, this is only open to U.S. residents. So while you do that, I want to point out something about the calendar. The calendar costs $50. So if you don't win tonight, go over to Size Swag, purchase the calendar because it is worth it. It pretty much pays for itself. Most of the vendors are offering 20% off or more. So if you're someone who spends at least $250 on bag making supplies each year, and let's face it, what bag maker doesn't? We're all, we all love to get all the good stuff. You're gonna basically recover. That $50 you spend on this calendar will definitely be made up. Some of the other deals in here, just to kind of give you an idea, you're going to get 20% off at SoFlo Patterns. You're going to get 15% off sometime in here during the year at Wonderground Fabrics. 20% off at Jeannie's Designs. That's my friend Barbie Taylor. 20% off at Emmeline Bags. 30% off from Purple Dragon Fabrics. 20% off at Lux Hardware, who's also a friend of mine. That's Ginger out in Houston, Texas. And of course, there's many more than that. We just wanted to mention a few. So let's see if we have a winner for the calendar. So Debbie Hayes, 9794. Congratulations, you have won the calendar. So please email share@simplyclassic.net within the next 24 hours. Include your name, your shipping address, and a note that you won the calendar, and we'll send that out as soon as possible. For everyone else, again, you can go to Size Swag's website and purchase the calendar for $50. And the link to do that is below in the description. So again, thank you to Keziah Myers. So before we move on, we need to pick our giveaway winner from last week's episode. And as a reminder, we give away a PDF pattern to one person that watches live and one person who watches the replay. So we have the name of everyone here who entered, and we asked you for your first name and what your favorite bag color was or is. So we are going to mix these up, and we're going to pick a winner. And the winner is Peggy 949. So Peggy says her favorite color is blue in all variation. So congratulations, Peggy. So make sure that you email share@simplyclassic.net within the next 30 days and let us know that you have won. Make sure you list the episode if you don't mind. That helps. And stick around because we'll be doing another giveaway at the end. So now let's talk about our featured pattern, which is the Sorella hip bag. This is on sale for $12.49 this week. And of course, that's for the PDF version only. The Sorella was inspired by a Gucci bag, and it was the Blondie belt bag. I believe it's been discontinued, but it was originally priced at $1,800. You know, it is kind of more of a gender neutral bag, but that's also true of the Sorella. So we're going to take a closer look right now at the Sorella in the overhead. So this is the Sorella that I made out of some leather that we have. It's actually more of a masculine leather. It's kind of aged and really beautiful, very kind of almost textured. It is a hip bag or, crossbody kind of bag, however you want to wear it. The instructions include a webbing strap or a belt strap. So this one here has a belt that I did for it. The instructions include 2 types of lining. You can either use a regular cotton linen or an adhesive lining. And I think I did adhesive lining in this one. Let's take a look. Yes, so this is the adhesive lining in color cream. It also includes two card slots, so you don't have to carry a wallet. Of course, it has this very unique closure. It has a great zipper pocket that you can fit cell phone, passport, cash, whatever you may need. It's really deep. It's the whole size of the bag. And the greatest thing about this is there's no stabilizer needed for this bag. So I do recommend an industrial or a heavy-duty domestic machine to make the sorella. My Burnett 08 does a great job. If you are sewing on a domestic machine and you're not using adhesive lining, just make sure that you keep the woven interfacing out of the seam allowances if you're using like a cotton or a linen. I can tell you, I've taught this bag many times. We usually use like Janome HD9 or Juki TL18 or a Burnett. They all work fantastic. A lot of this is raw edges, and it's great for leather because you don't have to worry about finishing. Unless you really want to, you can. But especially when you're looking at more masculine bags, a lot of times you don't even have to finish, right? I mean, none of these edges are finished. So it's really a great bag if you want to kind of sink into trying leather and you're maybe not quite sure how to approach it or you want to just try it. The sorella is a great place to start with that. So again, the PDF pattern is $12.49 this week, and we also have hardware kits for the sorella in bronze, nickel, and gunmetal. Those are 10% off right now. That discount will end on Wednesday, January 28th. So now it's time for perfect pairings, where we match some of our leather, faux leather with lining, thread, and hardware. If you're ever unsure about what goes together, feel free to reach out via email or ask on our website. We do have a chat, like a place where you can submit questions, and we're always happy to help. So our faux leather pairing is this faux aged brown leather. And we really feel like this is very similar to the real leather that I used. You can see here, it's almost an exact match. I think our faux is a little bit darker, but not much. This would be an excellent, excellent fabric to use for, we'll say, a man bag, because it's what we're talking about this week. You could use black adhesive with this, or you can use cream like I used in the bag I just showed you. I would use the dark brown thread, and you can either use gunmetal hardware or you can use bronze hardware like I used on the bag, either way. This is our buckles that we have. This is a plastic buckle that's contoured. You can see how it's kind of curved, and this would be a great option to use on a man bag because it's understated, and a lot of men don't like a lot of bling on their bag. Makes sense, and these buckles are fantastic. Comes in a kit. You get the actual buckle, plus you get a slat adjuster and a keeper all in one. So we have them in 3/4 inch, 1 inch, and 1.5 inches. And then for our leather pairing, we are actually going to do the same pairing that we did last week. And that is our olive leather with holy camel. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because next week's live stream is a sewing episode, and these are the materials that I end up using. Okay, I'm using these right here. And honestly, I used 1 holy camel hide and 1/2 of an olive hide. So I really didn't even need that much for the sorella that I made. I did use the olive adhesive lining, used nickel hardware, but for a part of the bag, I also used this strap here, okay? That's kind of what the inspiration has, so that's what we did. And then I used sand thread, okay? So the olive green and the holy camel are 10% off this week. So I really think that if you're interested, you need to go ahead and get it because you know what? It's on sale, so get it. And I'm just going to show you a quick glance. I'm going to stay here at the overhead of the sorella that we're making next week. So this is it. So this is a little bit different shape. You can see here. Let me put this from the standard sorella. Okay. It is a lot boxier than the sorella itself. You can see here, here's our sorella. Sorella has got a lot more curves to it. The flap is a lot curvier, where this is a lot boxier. This is also a little taller and, maybe even slightly narrower. You can see here how the shape is different. This sorella tends to come in, okay, where this one comes out. I'm also using a black strap for this, and of course the black hardware. The inspiration did have this metal buckle, and I happen to have one, this nickel buckle. So that's what I used. And then I'm using nickel hardware on this. So it is a fun hack, I have to say. It is definitely much more masculine than the sorella. Again, made from leather, the entire thing. The olive and the holy camel with the sand thread. And then this is just a 1-inch black webbing that I had in my stash. Okay, so I'm excited to show you how we do that next week. It's really a fun make. And now, again, it's time for you to get this leather if you are interested. Okay, so next we're going to talk about designer bag inspiration, and this is where we take a look at bags that fit our theme. Today we're talking about quote unquote man bags, and it's really a funny term because we don't say women bags, and it's really a bag's bag no matter who carries it. But of course there's still a little bit of cultural taboo when it comes to men's bags, especially here in the US. When I was in Europe, not so much. A lot of men carry bags, much more acceptable. Here, US is always maybe a little slower when it comes to things like that. But we're going to show you some statistics that are probably going to surprise you. So this has actually been a hot topic for decades. We look back at some old newspaper articles, ads that we found, and it was kind of funny. So in the 1940s, and there was an ad in the Boston Globe, and it described a men's leather travel bag as husky-looking He-Man bag. And in reality, the bag looked just like it is here in this picture. I mean, it's really not that different from women's luggage, but they really wanted it to sound manly. And so, they called it the husky-looking He-Man bag. In the 60s and 70s, articles like the one on the right started popping up to claim that man bags are a new twist on a briefcase. So most of these articles were about how the times were changing. Even some people resisted it. The masculine bags were becoming more acceptable. So man bags were also a hot topic in the 90s and the 2000s. And if you watched Friends or Seinfeld, you probably remember these episodes where there were topics. And Joey had a man bag, and I think he even called it a man bag. And, of course, on Seinfeld, he had his fur coat and his man bag on there, too. They were also a running joke in the movie The Hangover. And here we are now, decades later, in 2026. Man bags are much more acceptable than they once were, but they're still not nearly as common as women's bags. So here's the trend of how many people worldwide are Googling bags for men over the past 20 plus years. And you can see that it's being Googled a lot more now than back in 2004. There was a decrease during COVID lockdowns, which kind of makes sense because people weren't getting out, and then it picked back up. So right now it's at its all-time peak. It's the highest it's ever been. So that really tells us that man bags are becoming more popular than ever before. So we also looked at the specific types of bags that men were searching for. The most common types are messenger bags, laptop bags, travel bags, gym bags, and duffel bags. So those are all pretty traditional masculine bags. But what surprised us is the searches for men's tote bags and crossbody bags are also on the rise. Also, sling bags are growing in popularity. Not as much in the US, but definitely worldwide. In the terms of brands, men are searching for Nike, Louis Vuitton, and Gucci most of the time. So it seems like men are really starting to care about the style of the bag they carry, not just the function. So today we're going to take a look at some designer bags that were created for men. And more specifically, we're going to talk about what makes those bags masculine. That way you can take what you learned and apply it to the bags that you make. So because, even if a bag was designed for a woman, you can often make it look masculine by some small pattern changes like what we do for the sorella. And make adjustments and use the different kinds of materials. So Rob, this is perfect timing for this episode. My husband has decided he wants to learn how to make bags. All right. Fantastic. And when you think about it, really, leather bags, right? It doesn't matter if they're men's bag, women's bags, doesn't matter. Traditionally, bag makers are men, right? I think when you think about looking back through history, how many designers, how many were female? Not many of them. A lot of them were men. And I really feel like that kind of rugged masculine bags are made by men. So anyway, I think that's fantastic. Kudos to him. And hopefully there's something here that he can pick up on that we can help him with. Now, one last thing before we look at these bags. I do want to point out that the definition of masculine is all kind of relative, right? It changes over time and it's different across different cultures. So some of the biggest stars in the world right now who, there's some of them who are not afraid to push boundaries of fashion. And that sometimes includes more feminine pieces. Here we have Steve Harvey with a women's Birkin bag. He looks very dapper, doesn't he? And some younger actors like Jacob Elordi carry women's bags all the time. But for today, we're going to focus on bags that are more masculine. Now, that being said, let's kind of take it with a grain of salt because these are guidelines. They're not hard, fast rules, okay? Use whatever you feel works for you and the person you're making the bag for. So one of the best ways to understand what makes a masculine bag compared to a women's bag is to kind of compare them, right? So we're going to look at them side by side and see what the differences are. So this one here is a Hermes Bolade bag, and this is the women's mini version on the left and the men's messenger version on the right. Now, one thing I noticed with men's bags is that they will call anything and everything a messenger bag, even if it's not true. A true messenger bag has a long crossbody or shoulder strap and a large flap, kind of like what we envision mail carriers carrying traditionally. But I think, as we saw before, that the number one bag that men look for in Google searches is messenger bag. And so they basically are calling every bag that they want to be a man bag, a messenger bag, just to make it sound more masculine. I think it's just a marketing term so that men feel more comfortable buying them. But this bag on the right is not a messenger bag, okay? It is I guess you could call it a more masculine version. Number one, obviously the color, okay? They're very similar in dimension. They're very similar in shape. The women's has shorter handles and a thinner crossbody strap, where the men's bag does not have any handles. It just has a crossbody strap, and that crossbody strap is thicker. It's attached a little differently. In the men's bags, it's, attached on the back side. But, again, no short handles on that men's bag. The only exception we would see with that would be like for a briefcase or a duffel bag. Those tend to have shorter handles in men's bags. So we have a similar difference on the Hermes Kelly bag. The woman's bag has a top handle while the men's doesn't. But this bag also has a different overall shape. The woman is more angular and narrows at the top. The men's bag is very boxy and rectangular. So this is another common difference you'll notice. Men's bags tend to be more boxy rather than curved or angled. So here are two Ferragamo hug bags. The woman's, again, is very angular and it's wider on the bottom. It narrows at the top. The men's bag, once again, is more perpendicular and boxy. And let me tell you, out of the 3 pictures we just saw, this one, to me, looks more masculine than any of the others, than the other 2. This one, to me, if I saw that brown bag in a store, I would absolutely think this is a men's briefcase or a men's bag. Now, it has short handles. Look at that. And it does have a thinner crossbody strap. But it's the color and it's the lack of angles, maybe more boxy than that women's bag. You see the women's bag is very angular. The Prada Bonnie is almost identical in the men's and women's versions. The only difference here is that the men's bag is substantially larger. And then, of course, the color. So next are some wearable Louis Vuitton wallets. These aren't technically 2 versions of the same bag. They're different styles, but they're meant to be worn the same way. They're basically compact crossbody wallets with a flat closure. They're similar in size and shape, and the biggest difference that I see is the hardware and the straps. So again, we see that the women's bag is thinner than the men's. The women's bag has this luxe gold hardware with the LV logo, and it has a chain strap, but the men's hardware is much more understated. It's matte black with a simple buckle closure. Now, I just want to look at a few more miscellaneous men's bags. We've talked about messenger bags already, and here are some good examples. They have very neutral tones and boxy silhouettes. Even when the bags have some curves, they're still basically rectangles, and the curves are very slight. These are men's crossbody bags. We saw from Google Trends that these are growing in popularity. The soccer player David Beckham sometimes carries a crossbody bag. Something interesting here is that the bag on the left is once again called a messenger bag, but that is not a messenger bag. It does not have that long flap. And that's what dictates what a messenger bag is. The sling bag in the middle is very boxy and almost looks like a shaving kit, which is pretty cool. That one looks a lot more masculine to me. Now, we can't forget about hip bags or belt bags. They're usually double as sling bags. Men's hip bags often have cargo pockets like these do, and it gives them a little bit more of a utilitarian look. I was a little surprised by the alligator belt in the middle. Alligator and croc aren't very common on men's bags, but it really does work here. The dark red color is very masculine, and the overall design is simple. So it does look like a man's bag. I also love the Prada belt bag, which is made with suede and nylon, and that's actually the bag that inspired me to do the sorella hack that I showed you that we're going to sew up next week. So finally, we have sling bags, and these are very trendy right now, especially among male athletes. So here we have NFL player Rashad Bateman with a Balenciaga, and he's wearing a sling bag. And then major baseball player Alex Vesia wearing a Louis Vuitton sling. So a lot of athletes tend to be ahead of the curve on fashion trends, and I think we're seeing a lot more men's sling bags in years to come. And we actually had a little discussion about this before we went live, that probably the reason why athletes kind of set trends is because, I mean, can you imagine going up to a professional football player and trying to make fun of his bag? He'd pounce you in the ground, right? I mean, that's not going to work. So they can do whatever they want. So anyway, I hope this gives you some inspiration. I'm excited to see, next week's episode. I'm really excited for you to see that when we put the sorella, do the sorella hack and kind of put that to the test. So now let's recap what we learned. So here's some tips you can use to make a pattern look more masculine or gender neutral. Number 1, add cargo pockets. Number 2, increase the width of the strap or use webbing. Number 3, replace curves with straight perpendicular lines. 4th thing, use chunky hardware, especially buckles, and use matte finishes. Use like a matte black or something. Don't use a lot of bling. Men don't like bling on their bags. And then lastly, adjust the size and proportions, increase the height and decrease the depth. And that's going to make it a little bit more masculine. And of course, we have some materials here that you can, take a look at in some colors. And again, these are not rules. These are just what we've seen in the trends, suggestions. But I think a lot of them are pretty straightforward. I mean, most men are not going to carry a pale yellow bag, but they'll carry something black, gray, brown, beige, something like that. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Thursday thread, and this is where I share a sewing story or design story. And today we're talking about history of Tom Ford and both the man himself and the brand he created. So Tom Ford is a fashion designer known for being unapologetically sexy and pushing the limits in his ads and runway shows. He is one of the rare American designers who has achieved international success in his career, especially in Europe. His designs were for both men and women, and he's made an impact on handbag trends over the years, like most other designers have. So one thing to know about Tom Ford is that he really isn't an avant-garde designer. He considers himself a commercial fashion designer more than an artist. He's very business-minded, and he helped create the Kering Group, which is the European fashion conglomerate, which is the largest competitor for LVMH. Tom Ford wasn't always a fashion designer. He actually went to school for architecture in New York City. And during his college years, he was very much a part of the art scene. He even partied at Andy Warhol's Studio 54. Eventually, he realized that he didn't want to be an architect. He wanted to work in fashion. So that decision ended up changing his life in more ways than one. He actually ended up meeting his future husband, Richard Buckley, in the elevator at a fashion show in the 1980s. They started dating and they eventually got married and they had a child. But back to fashion. After graduating, Tom Ford sketched a portfolio and started looking for work. He got hired by Marc Jacobs, who worked at the American brand Perry Ellis. And at that time, that's where he worked. But his ultimate goal was to work in Europe. He believed that you could only get internationally famous if you're respected as a European designer, not an American. And it's kind of true. I mean, look back at all of the huge brands that have made it. 99% of them are from Europe. So, or they, they were over there in the Europe, especially Paris, right? We learned that all the teenagers run around Paris designing things in their late teens, and somehow they all made it, or a lot of them we know made it. I'm sure there's some who didn't. So he moved to Europe, and in 1990, when he was 30 years old, Gucci hired him as their creative director. The Gucci company was struggling at the time. He saw the role as kind of a stepping stone to learn the ins and outs of the fashion industry in Europe. But he was really pleasantly surprised because he was given a lot more creative control than expected, and he was able to mold the brand to exactly how he wanted it. His first show was not a success, though. People found it very boring. You can see some of the designs here. They're nice, but nothing revolutionary. His partner, Richard, told him, "You've got to find a way to make it sexy." So he did. He leaned into the 70s revival that was happening at the time. He took the iconic Gucci loafer and made it with patent leather. He used velvet and silk and lots of bright colors, and it really put him on the map. These photos are from his 1997 collection, and many people said it was his best work. You can see some of his early bag designs here as well. Gucci acquired Yves Saint Laurent in the late 90s. So Tom Ford began designing for YSL too. He introduced this bag. It was the Mombasa Hobo in the winter of 2001. He wanted this horn handle to be YSL's version of the Gucci bamboo handle. People really loved the style, but it was very uncomfortable to carry, and eventually they stopped making it. Then just last week, YSL announced that the Mombasa is being reissued for its 25th year anniversary. This horn has a little more practical use and it's a little more, overall shouldn't be so hard to carry. So, hobo bags are going strong. This aged distressed leather is very trendy and popular right now, so it's right on time. So Tom Ford left YSL and started his own label called Tom Ford in 2004. And it started as an accessories brand before becoming a full fashion line for men and women. Tom Ford brand was popular for making sexier upscale versions of classic garments. It was also kind of synonymous with Brad Pitt at the time because Tom Ford made an exclusive deal with Brad Pitt to dress him for all big events. So in terms of handbags, the designs tend to be very classic in neutral tones. They're very simple with good craftsmanship. And here are some of the men's bags from Tom Ford. The one on the right is a messenger bag. Okay, that is a classic messenger bag. Love it. Of course, the one on the left is a dock bag or shaving kit bag. Very masculine. Love both of these. And I really like the one on the left, how he added a little bit of suede in there. I think that looks really nice. So here are some of the women's bags. They're, again, very simple, but unlike the men's bags, they have the branded hardware. Okay, so you see that's a huge difference in the bags. So Tom Ford retired from fashion in 2023 after his lifelong partner passed away. He passed the reins to Peter Hawkins, who had worked there for many years and is carrying on the brand's legacy. Tom Ford now spends his time raising his teenager and working in the film industry as a director. He had already directed 2 movies several years ago, A Single Man in 2009 and Nocturnal Animals in 2016. He's currently working on his 3rd film, and he does not plan to return to fashion. He said, "I felt after 35 years, I have said everything I could say with fashion, so it's important to know when to get off the stage." Next, we are going to move on to Artistry Avenue. And every week we choose 3 bags that were posted in the Simply Classic bag making community or that were emailed to share@simplyclassic.net. If we feature your bag, you get a free PDF pattern of your choice. You have 30 days to email share@simplyclassic.net to let us know which pattern you'd like. So now let's take a look at this week's artists. So this sorella was made by Lisa. She actually made her very first sorella with me at Sack Bag and Sew last fall. Afterwards, she went home and she made this one using a goat leather. Isn't it gorgeous? She used 1.5-inch webbing for the strap, and she made the leather strap connectors that match the bag. This is absolutely gorgeous. Excellent job. Sonia made this amazing Roseanne. She paired faux python with purple faux leather. She made 2-tone straps, which she edge coated for a very professional finish. The lining matches perfectly, and she used rainbow toned hardware that complements all the shades of purple. This is absolutely gorgeous. Jeannie made this Kaplan, and she actually combined real and faux leather. The red is genuine leather. It's from our website, and the color is called Sienna. And we don't have any left. I think she might have even got the last one. I mean, we didn't have very many. It has a really light distressed texture, very masculine, very beautiful. And the green is actually a faux leather. It's an unexpected combination, but it really looks amazing, doesn't it? Jeannie said that this was her first time using leather, and she really did a great job with it. And I really like what she did with the closure. The original Kaplan is written for a twist lock closure, but she used this hardware instead, and it really gives the bag an incredible rugged look. Excellent job. So thank you to all of our featured artists, Lisa, Sonia, and Jeannie, for sharing your amazing makes. Everybody's so talented. You know, I sit there and look at these bags. I'm like, man, y'all sew a lot better than I do. I can promise you. I just give you ideas and you run with them. So don't forget to email share@simplyclassic.net within 30 days to let us know which PDF pattern you'd like. So before we move on to our Q&A, let's talk about our giveaways. We're giving away 2 PDF patterns of your choice. We'll choose 1 live stream winner from the chat, like we always do, and of course, 1 replay winner from the comments. So if you're watching live on Thursday, here's how to enter. All you need to do is type hip bag in the chat. So HIPBAG. All one word, no space. Please only enter 1 time, and the computer will pick a winner while we do our Q&A. And this is open worldwide. So if you're watching the replay, you can also enter to win. Just leave a comment that includes 2 things. your first name, and one product you'd like to see us carry in the store in 2026, something new. It could be a particular kind of hardware or a certain color leather or anything at all that you've been searching for or having a hard time finding, or maybe just something you'd like to see. So you have until next Wednesday to enter, and I'll randomly choose a winner on next week's episode. So let's take a look at our questions. So the first question is from Tammy on YouTube, and a few different people have asked this, so I really wanted to answer it. Tammy had a question about the edge guide that I use in the recent video that I did, and I'm going to switch to the overhead so you can see what I am talking about. This is the edge guide that I use on my Burnett. Okay, so it's from Purple Hobbies, and I did share the link. She said that when she goes in to see this, she can find it, but she sees a lot of different options for this part. See, this comes out and you can move it wherever you want. The greatest thing about this is it's got an indentation for your foot, so you can get a true 1/8 of an inch. And it really helps when you're trying to top stitch. You can go ahead and use it. So what you can do is when you go to Purple Hobbies, you're going to go to the edge guide, and then you're going to click on the option that says semi-industrial 1/8 of an inch T-bar. And that's what this is. Okay, the 1/8 of an inch T-bar. Now this, works great with my Burnett. I'm sure it also works with some other machines. I want to give a shout out to Heather. She owns Purple Hobbies. And if you have any questions as to whether or not it's going to work with your machine, or if you have any questions about anything at all, feel free to reach out to her or reach out to us. I'm sure Heather would be happy to answer your questions. When you go to order, use the coupon code SimplyClassic, all one word, and you'll save 15% at Purple Hobbies. Okay, let's see okay. So Sonia says, can we sew the Nina with a Janome HD9? So I'm going to tell you that yes, you can, but you're going to have to make some modifications. The Nina is, I don't have a Nina here. There is one seam on the Nina that we do a double edge just to sew the gusset on. It's on the side, okay? And actually we have one right here. Okay, so to sew this gusset on right here, see how this is indented in the bag? We do 2 lines of stitching right here. If you're going to sew on anything except for a cylinder arm, so if you have a flatbed industrial or a Burnett or HD9, something like that, you're only going to be able to get 1 line of stitching here, which is okay. Still going to be a great bag. But it's going to, we're going to go to the overhead for just a second. I'm going to show you. When you look in here, of course, you have this belt that kind of holds this closed, but where it's almost like a little French seam here, the seam allowance gets, see how you can see this, the seam is inside here. If you just do 1 line of stitching, if you really dig in here and you open this up, you might be able to see a little bit of your lining inside, like the lining, the edge of the lining. But if you can do the two lines, that's great. You're not going to be able to do 2 lines on a flatbed or a semi-industrial. But again, it's not really going to change the look of the bag. You're just not going to have the 2 lines here. Make sense? That's a good question. I know a lot of people have been asking that. So Carrie asked, can you use a domestic Juki for this leather bag? So I think that's the same question as the for the Nina. And again, yes, hopefully you've got a Juki TL18 or one of the semi-industrials. You're going to need that torque in the motor to get it going. If you have a quilting machine, it's probably not going to work. Okay. Great questions. Okay, so let's see if we have a winner. And we do. So Tree 60 handmade bags. Congratulations. So you have won the pattern. Please make sure that you email share@simplyclassic.net. And if you can do that within the next 24 hours to let us know that you've won, and we'll send you a PDF pattern of your choice. So thank you so much for joining me for the Bag Makers Workroom. And make sure you join us next Thursday, January 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern. It will be a sewing episode, and we will be making this sorella hat, very masculine version of the sorella bag. Don't forget to submit your Simply Classic makes by posting them in the Facebook group or emailing share@simplyclassic.net. And please remember to click the thumbs up button on your way out. Until next week, everybody, happy sewing.